Slop. You've probably seen or heard that word everywhere lately. In 2025, it was named Word of the Year by both Merriam-Webster and the American Dialect Society. It even earned its own Wikipedia page. It's a word that has seen a drastic increase in use over the last few years. Today, slop is usually tied with the word artificial intelligence. Now, you might be wondering, why is the Linguistics channel talking about that? Before going any further, I'm not here to discuss whether AI is good or bad. That's not the point. Instead, this video is about language, how words evolve, how they suddenly go mainstream, and how some of them end up crowned Word of the Year. This is not another video talking about AI. It's about the linguistics aspects related to the word and in general to how a word gets created, used, sometimes massively, and how it can impact societies. Before diving into this topic, and if you have no idea what slop means, or why this became used so massively over the last month or years, let me give you a quick definition. The first meaning of slop, according to Cambridge Dictionary, is a liquid or wet food waste, especially when it's fed to animals. As a verb, it means to cause a liquid to flow over the edge of a container through not taking care or making a rough movement. But today, it is used to describe something of low quality, made lazily. This is usually related to digital content, and mainly related to AI content generation. To add to that, it can also have the connotation of something that was made with the idea of maximizing profits over quality. What we can see here is that slop can be used in an illustration of quality versus quantity, but I would say pushed to an extreme. While today we see that word being used mainly with AI, and even if the Wikipedia page and the word slop mentions that it's primarily used in this context of AI, it was used before that. And here, you have to trust my memory, but I remember hearing that word a few times before, often associated with crypto projects, and specifically crypto gaming. Even in this context, the idea of something of low quality or lazy was the main definition behind slop. It was used to describe projects that seemed to have been made solely to gather money from people and where no thoughts were put behind the project, except being a financial opportunity. Now that we have some base definitions, let's look more into the context behind that massive emergence of the word slop today. The main context is clearly the emergence of AI, not as a science field, but as a tool accessible by most people. The field of artificial intelligence is not new at all and has existed for decades, but the recent years saw the fast development of many large language models. The progress with these models, and the field in general in the recent years, led to AI tools being widely available for people and companies, leading to its almost omnipresence in every sphere of society. This widespread availability of AI tools led to a widespread use of them, which in turn led to the idea that most of the AI used led to low-quality content, hence the use of slop becoming more and more prominent. This is mainly the case when it comes to text generation, image, video, or audio generation. What I think is quite interesting when it comes to lexical changes and new words is that if the word becomes popular enough and quickly, it gets added to other languages as is without translations. Slop is used in other languages, often as a borrowing, so the English word is preserved and not translated in the target language. It clearly shows the impact and presence of the word at a given time. It's easy to translate this word, yet it stays the same, showing that it has a specific meaning. It is often easier to just keep the word in the original language than translating it when there is a brand new meaning. Now, I'm sure slop has been translated in some languages just as well. I'm not sure which ones, so if you know any, please let me know in the comments. One last point on the borrowing of slop. Because it's linked to tech and AI, which are fields where English words tend to stay as is and are not translated in target languages, it's not surprising that it's the case here as well. Notice I say often because it's not a general rule, just a generic statement. One question that we can think about is, why slop? I mean, why this word and not another? Well, this is where we don't really have answers. I mean, I could tell you a few reasons why the word works well, but it won't fully explain why this is the one being massively used. It could have been trash or stain or something along these lines, but yet we have slop. The reasons for it could be because it's a simple word, it's not really used as much as trash, making it more unique, which fits a new unique situation. Here I mean the emergence of AI. One other guess I have about it is because it also encapsulates the idea of being fed. Whether you like all the uses of AI or not, you have to agree that it has been used everywhere for everything. It can feel like AI is almost being force-fed to people, even those who don't care about it. So, is AI slop a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm not talking about the concept here, but simply the word? Well, in linguistics, like any science, we don't really talk about good or bad, but rather we stick to describing languages and language use. Science describes facts. Linguistics is not different, and as linguists, we report on facts. Slop is just a word between many others. If this word can be of interest to linguists, this is because it describes a specific moment in time and in our societies. In this case, not only does this reflect on the rise of AI in the 2020 decade, but it also reflects on the rejection of various uses of AI by many people. I want to emphasize the 2020 decade because AI is absolutely not new and has been around for decades. However, the rise of the words AI and slop is due to the recent progress in machine learning and in general the field of artificial intelligence. And here I am willingly putting everything under the same banner, even though it's an oversimplification. But it's not just the rise of progress in the field and the development of many new models that these words tell us about. They tell us more about how it is becoming part of society to have AI tools around, especially for the average person. Right now, we hear the word AI all the time and for pretty much everything. It's not surprising that an opposite word, slop, also appears. The use of slop also focuses not on the progress made in the field of artificial intelligence, but rather in its everyday use by people and companies, especially to emphasize the low quality and low effort aspects of these uses. Of course, I'm not saying that the use of AI is also low quality or effortless. It certainly is the case in some instances, but not all the time. But this is what slop aims at encapsulating. It also shows a feeling of tiredness related to seeing the word AI being used everywhere. It's not just about the low quality aspects that people may find in some uses of artificial intelligence. It's also about the overwhelming use of AI for everything in the recent years. It highlights the feeling of tiredness from this overuse. By the way, if you like linguistics and languages, you can subscribe to this channel where I frequently upload videos on these topics. There are two main ways new words appear. One is being coined from nothing. This is called a neologism, which literally means new word. It's a mix of neo, meaning new, and logos, meaning word in Greek. The other way is to change the meaning of a pre-existing word. Often, there's some link between the older meaning of the word and the new one. It shows some evolution of a language or a dialect where the meaning of a word is gradually changed over a period of time until it adopts a new definition. A good example is the word awkward. Today the main use of this word is related to a feeling of embarrassment or inconvenience. But in Middle English, the definition was different. It was used for someone who was clumsy. You can see some path from being clumsy to feeling embarrassed. I mean, being clumsy leads to situations where one can be embarrassed, like spilling food on someone else or a similar scenario. Changing the meaning of a word to create a new one can be done consciously or subconsciously. Often, it's a mix of the two where an alteration happens, it is then used, people repeat it until someone only knows the latest meaning. In this context, our word slop is an example of taking a pre-existing word and adding a new meaning to it. People started using the first definition, and it gradually adapted and evolved to what it is today. We can see how food waste, especially when it's fed to animals, can lead to the current definition. Food waste being something of low quality, and being given to animals emphasizes that they are just getting scraps, but not the main good meal. Once a word is born, we can try to see how it becomes widely used. Because creating a new word or associating a new meaning to a word cannot be done alone. If you start inventing a new word and only you understand it, it means its use has not been accepted by others. Technically, the word you invented exists, but to a limited extent. That's why the use of a word by others is a major criterion in the life of a new word. Now, to see how often a word is used, you could simply talk to others, read books, or read social media posts. But doing that presents a major limit in science. You will have some biased results. You will be biased by the portion of people you talk to, which is likely people who may be similar to you. What you're reading is also going to have an impact. If you read novels from the 19th century, you won't really have the best representation of language used today. Same for social media, which are often bubbles with algorithms pushing content for you. You may only see people who use a similar language to you. Not always, but that's still a possibility. To see how often a word is used, we need to be able to look at data for everyone. And we can. There are two tools that would help us in our quest of identifying language use. The first is Google Ngram Viewer. Google Ngram Viewer is a tool that allows you to explore language use trends over time by searching through a vast collection of books, documents, and other textual sources. However, this presents two limits. One is the fact that the data is limited to 2022 and does not go beyond that year. We'll have to wait before getting data for 2025. But it already tells us a bit about slop. There's a bit of a resurgence in the use of the word in the recent decades. I'll come back to that in a minute after looking at the other tool, Google Trends. And this is where most of our data will come from. Google Trends is a website by Google that provides users the ability to analyze the popularity of top search queries in Google Search as well as YouTube across various regions, time ranges, and categories. This is where you can see real linguistics patterns emerge as well as word combinations. Now, we can clearly see that the word slop has been used more and more in the recent month, especially at the end of 2025. Google Trends tell us about search queries, which means that it's not necessarily direct language use, although it is sometimes the case. It tells us what people are looking for, meaning that if many people are looking for a specific word, it's because this word has been used more and more. This leads people to look more into it, and the number of queries increases. With Trends, you can also see the related queries where AI is directly connected to the word slop, emphasizing one more time the association between the two. What's interesting is that we also see the use of slop becoming a bit popular way before the last years, when AI was not really such a big topic. So why is this the case? Why is there a trend in 2004, for example? Which also kind of matches the trend we saw on Google Ngram Viewer. This is where I learned something. It comes from the show Big Brother. I never watched that show, but looking up the terms slop and Big Brother, I found out that people got interested in trying to get recipe for a food called slopped from that show, which turns out to be based on oats. So here we see that slop has a different meaning from today's use related to AI or to the original meaning of the word. Once again, it's a slightly different meaning, but we can see how it came from the original meaning of animal food, especially if you think of pigs or horses. How does a word become word of the year? After all this talk, this might be one of the main questions we need to address now. Well, there are two answers here. One is that this notion of word of the year is subjective to an extent. It's a private group that decides on it, but it doesn't mean that all institutions related to language, words, or lexicon agree on that statement. That's why I mentioned there are two groups who voted slop to be their word of the year, but no other institution did so. That being said, the second answer comes into play now. If a word is chosen as word of the year, it is often due to the high use of a word, or the rise in use of a word during a specific year, or due to the societal impact of a word. It can also be all three at once, and I believe slop is an example of all three at once for 2025. Besides the rise in use of the word, it is also undeniable that slop has had a societal impact. Whether you like the word or not, you have to admit that it has an impact on all of us. It's becoming more and more difficult to ignore this word as it's being used massively by people. It also carries some criticism of the use of artificial intelligence today. And once again, whether you're all about AI or not, you can see that this topic has had a huge impact on our societies. The word AI is everywhere, and it's not surprising that slop follows.